All right, everybody. Race number 4 here at Laguna Seca. We've got a really good lineup. We got John Snow starting in first place, David Macedo starting in second, Joe Marsiglia starting in third, Mike Doherty in fourth, Andre Marchician in fifth, Jesse Albert in sixth, Kyle Macedo in seventh, Pedro Perez in eighth, and Eric Tong starting in ninth place. So this track has been quite a bit of a challenge for these guys throughout the week. We've seen a lot of incidents, a lot of people off the track. For anybody who's ever raced Laguna Seca before, you know that it's a treacherous track. You get your tires just a little bit off the track and the sand pulls you off course or spins you around. It's very unforgiving. So we've definitely seen some struggles by some guys. David Macedo kind of surprised everybody qualifying in second because he had struggled pretty mightily at this track throughout the week, but right before the start of the race, during practice and qualifying, he seemed to find pace that he had not had all week long. So same for Joe Marsiglia. Joe really surprised everybody, qualifying all the way up into third, jumping up into the front like that. So we're anxious to see how these guys do. You know, they're going to have to deal with Doherty, Marchician, and Albert, who are all very, very fast behind them. This is it's a shorter track than a lot of the tracks we've raced at, so we've got more time, or excuse me, less time to warm up your tires and brakes before it's time to form up and get ready for the start of the race. You see how intimidating that corkscrew is from this helicopter view. You can really see the change in elevation there. Everybody forming up pretty good here, getting ready for the start of the race. John and David have them going nice and slow through here. Coming down into the final turn. Still a little bit spread out. We'd like to see these guys get it formed up a little better than this. Getting it together. Coming down looking for the green flag. And there's the green flag. Here we go. It's a drag race between the two guys in the front row right now. You see Joe get a nice jump in the Ferrari. He's coming up on the inside there, looking pretty good. David Macedo trying to make it stick around the outside, as is Mike Doherty. And David falls in behind John. Doherty falls back behind Joe Marsiglia. If you take a look at Jesse, he finally falls in behind Marchician. Probably for the better right there. Pedro falls back into last place. We see him behind Eric Tong there. Kyle Macedo is kind of a wild card for this race. He's shown pretty good speed here, but he's also shown inconsistency on this track, so we're not real sure what to expect from him. So as we look at these guys coming down the corkscrew here, David trying to keep the pressure on John. Oh, and you see Joe get loose there, losing the tail end of the car. Almost goes back into traffic and does get hit by Marchician. Off the track he goes. That's really going to mess up his race. He had a really, oh, and then he spins it around again. He had a really good qualifying session, but that is going to ruin his race essentially here in the beginning of the race. So taking a look at Doherty running in third right now. Meanwhile, David is still pressuring Jon Snow, keeping the pressure on him. Jon showed really good pace throughout the week here, and tonight was no different. His qualifying pace was really incredible. That's what got him that top spot. So we'll see if David can keep up with him. David didn't really show that kind of consistency throughout the week, but tonight he's been really fast. So we'll see. Whoa, you see him get a little loose there. We'll see if he can keep up with Snow. Doherty in third. Jesse Albert's got Andre right on his tail. Let's take a look on board with Andre here. Coming down through the corkscrew. Jump on board with Jesse, trying to catch Mike Doherty. We're running 43 laps here tonight, so a lot of racing left to go. We'll see what these guys can do as the tires wear and the fuel load changes and everything else. See Albert aggressive in the braking zone there, catches up to Doherty a little bit. Meanwhile, David is starting to see a gap form between him and Jon Snow. Jon really fast here at Laguna. I think this has been our most difficult track. You know, we've run quite a few races together now as a league, and I think this is the track where guys struggled the most. But so far so good here in the beginning. Other than Joe, everything's been pretty solid. Joe just got loose coming down that hill right there and unfortunately sustained some damage. Let's see here. We've got John, who has pulled the gap up to a 1.9 second lead. He's looking really good out in front. David's still got a pretty good gap to Doherty, almost 2 seconds there. Meanwhile, Jesse and Andre are catching up to Mike Doherty here. You see Jesse really aggressive through that braking zone right there, but Andre is right on him. Andre has shown some really good speed here. He had the fastest lap in practice, I believe, during our practice session tonight, but wasn't able to match that during qualifying, if memory serves right. He was really fast during practice, so we'll see what he can do in the race here. He's got a lot of laps to get it figured out in that Aston Martin. Meanwhile, Doherty has just about caught up to David Macedo. Jon Snow has pulled the gap out to a 3.4 second lead in first. So he's not feeling any pressure right now. And we've got battles going on for second and fourth. Jesse runs a little wide there, but able to maintain his speed coming up the hill. Let's check back through the field here. We got Pedro Perez running in 6th place right now. Eric Tong behind him. Oh, and as I look at Eric, he is off the track. That is unfortunate for him. He is sustained quite a bit of damage there. So you see Kyle Macedo, who's got some damage on that McLaren. He's had a rough start to the race, running in 8th, followed by Joe, who had that spin earlier, running in 9th. All right, let's get back to the front. David Macedo, he's pulled a little bit of a gap on Mike Doherty. But unfortunately for Doherty, now has Jesse Albert really close to him. And Andre is still on Albert, so we've got a pretty tight race between these 4 cars, but especially the further 3. See what these guys can do here. See Doherty really close to him coming into that braking zone right there. Like he was braking maybe a little bit late. See Andre run a little wide there, but he's kind of consistently taking that turn a little wide. Oh, you see David get a little bit loose. He's going to lose some speed there, and Doherty's going to catch back up to him. Really good racing by all these guys. You see how closely matched they are in pace. Jesse right up on Doherty coming up the hill there. Oh, and you see Doherty almost gets into the back of Macedo and has to bail out of it. That's going to move Albert up into 3rd and Marchician into 4th. Doherty able to keep it out of the wall, but he's going to lose some positions there. That's going to cost him quite a bit. You see him in the background back there. So now we got a battle for 2nd and a battle for 3rd. These guys are 1, 2, 3, nice and close here. See Jesse looking to the inside on the hard turn right there. Oh, and David almost gets a piece of him coming out wide there. And then David runs wide, and that's going to give Jesse the position. So Jesse has inherited 2nd place with some consistent racing and had a couple of guys off the track in front of him. So he's up into 2nd. Marchician's up into 3rd, and he's still on Albert. So this battle rages on. It's just for a different position now. Now it's the battle for 2nd. So we'll see what these guys are able to do. Looking back at David, we'll see how far ahead of Doherty he is. It's showing 5 seconds. I don't know if that's accurate though. There we go, 3.3 seconds. So 3.3 second gap there. So Marchician hasn't lost touch with Jesse throughout this whole race. He's been on him basically since lap 1. So they've been racing close all this time. Meanwhile, Jon Snow is in the process of checking out of this race. He has really pulled out quite a lead. He's at 7.5 seconds, and he's gaining on these guys every lap. If he can continually do this, he's going to run away with this race and really not have any challenge from anybody. Let's take a look on board with Marchician here. He seems to have an advantage over Jesse in some of the braking zones. He seems to make up a lot of time in some of these longer braking zones. You see Albert keeping it, gets a little bit of the sausage curve there, but keeps it tight. But you see, like, this long braking zone coming up right here. This is where Marchician seems to have an advantage over Jesse. Catches him on the long braking zone, and then it's just a drag race down the front stretch. Now that Lexus is really good out of the corner, and apparently Jesse has it set up pretty nice, so he's got a lot of speed coming out of the corner. But you see, once again, Marchician catches him in the long braking zone there, and then it kind of spaces back out as we accelerate out of the turn. So Andre, I don't know if it's the car or if it's just something he's figured out in these long braking zones, but he's got an advantage there. It might be why he's been able to catch Jesse consistently throughout this race, because he's fallen back a few times, but he's consistently been able to catch back up. You see Jesse run a little wide right there, get a little loose. Marchician right up on him now, coming up the hill. This might be pretty close because they're coming into this long, hard braking zone at the top of the hill right here. Marchician right up on him, coming through the corkscrew. I think Jesse's a little quicker through this part, the downhill section right here. Yeah, you see him start to gap Marchician a little bit. But here we come up to another long braking zone, and Marchician quick on the brakes there, almost got into the back of him. You see where the Aston doesn't quite have the drive off the corner that Lexus does, but he's faster through other parts of the track, so it's an interesting battle between these guys. As Marchician gets on the inside, gets a little bump there, kind of stuck his nose maybe where it didn't belong a little bit on Jesse right there. Right back on his heels. See how close he is to Jesse, almost making contact there. Gets loose coming through the corner, and that's going to give Jesse a little bit of breathing room as he slides through the corner there, a four-wheel slide. So we'll see if Marchician can catch him once again. But a good battle by these guys. Really fun to watch. Let's check back on David and Mike Doherty. Mike Doherty's got the lead to Macedo cut down to 1.5 seconds. So he's been working on Macedo ever since he had that off the track situation. He's got it down to 1.5 seconds now. We're 10 laps into the race, about to be 11. Jon Snow has pulled the lead out to 11.1 seconds now for first place. So he's just consistently gapping everybody else on the track, showing a lot of speed here tonight. So Marchician's back down to 1 second off of Jesse. Just not quite within reach. You see those guys back there behind him. So potentially still a couple of battles for second and for fourth. These two have been raging on. These two battles have been raging on the entire race. Who's battling for what has changed a few times, but it's the same two drivers. It's Albert and Marchician, and Macedo and Doherty have been doing battle this entire time. Take a look back up here in second place. Jesse's still hanging on to it. John Snow, he is putting on a Superman level performance so far in this race. He's got the gap right now at 11.2 seconds to second place, and showing no signs of slowing down. He's about to make it 13 laps in the books out of 43. So we've got about 30 laps left to go. Here comes John down the front stretch. He's got it up to 12.1 seconds over Andre. So you see Marchician has caught back up to Jesse. And it looks like Doherty has caught back up to David Macedo. So these battles just continue to rage on. You see Marchician looking on the outside there, really close up onto Jesse coming down this high speed section of the track, but he's going to be on the outside for the next turn, and that's not going to work out very well. So he falls back in behind him again. Let's take a look on board once again with these guys. Really good battle from both of these guys throughout the race. You see just how blind that downhill section of the corkscrew really is. You just kind of have to know where your car is, because for a split second there you really can't see anything. You see Albert just not as fast through those hard braking zones as Marchician, but here he goes getting a great run out of the last turn. Gets a good run down the front stretch and is able to pull away. Let's take a look back here. Doherty has caught David. Not quite as close as Marchician is to Albert. He's just a little, just out of reach, not able to make any moves on him or anything like that. Gets a good run out of that corner there. Now he's really up on him. Whoa, gets a little loose through there, almost loses the rear end of the car. Good save by Doherty. Coming up the hill here. See Marchician still on, trying to catch back up to Albert here. This front stretch is not going to help. Jesse definitely has an advantage here. You can see just how quick that Lexus is on that long front stretch there. Really, really good. Meanwhile, we check on board with John Snow. And John is basically running his own race right now. You see somebody up there in front of him, but that's not for position. That is lap traffic. He is running away with this thing. He's got the lead up to 14.7 second gap on Jesse Albert. And it's not helping these guys that they're continuing to battle, so that's keeping them from being able to really dig in because they're worried about the guy behind them putting pressure. They're not making up any ground on Snow, but even if they were alone, I don't know if they'd be able to make up ground on John or not. He's just really fast in this race tonight. He's got a great rhythm around this track. Check back on Doherty. Mike is not the most aggressive driver, for sure. He's more of a pressure you till you make a mistake kind of a guy. He's not one who's going to dive down the inside or make some crazy move to try to pass somebody. He just tries to let you beat yourself more than anything. And he's had the pressure on Macedo pretty much this entire race, and David has held up under that pressure really well. We see John here coming to the corkscrew one more time. Just nice and smooth through there. He's got everything going his way right now. I mean, he's got a big lead. He's very, very comfortable on this track. You can see it by the way he drives. He's not overdriving the car. He's not overshooting turns. He's just nice and steady. And even with that steady consistency, he's able to maintain a lot of speed. Meanwhile, you see Marchishin, his last lap was a 124.0. John Snow's last lap was a 124.3. Jesse Albert's was a 123.8, so that's why Albert has pulled a little bit of a gap on Marchishin. Let's take a look at these guys. David Macedo's last lap was a 125.0, and Mike Doherty was a 124.9. So now we're on the 18th lap here. Take a look at Snow once again through this part of the track. Nice and clean through there. He's hitting his marks. He's really doing a great job just maintaining, and keeping the speed on the track. So you can hear it. Okay, John's headed into the pit, so he's going to pit a little bit early. Possibly going for an undercut here. Not that he needs to do that because he's quite a ways out in front. So let's see if these guys pit. What that is going to do. Marchishin has gotten around Albert. So I was going to say Jesse is going to take second, but it's Marchishin. Let's see what happens here. Coming down the corkscrew, Jesse's in the lead. Marchishin about a second or so behind him. Oh, and Albert gets a piece of the curb there, the sausage curb, puts him off the track. Luckily, he's able to hold on to it, but that's going to give eventually the lead to Marchishin because he's going to pass John Snow in the pits. You see John in the pits there. So John has dominated this race. So it looks like John didn't take tires. He's going without tires here. So he's confident in his ability to maintain that pace without fresh tires. Meanwhile, Doherty moves up into third with David Macedo in fourth. Wait a minute, did we miss something here? How did he get in front of Macedo? There it is right there. Okay. So we take a look at these guys here. They've been battling all race long. David just gets off the track there, gets his tires in the dirt, and just lets Doherty go. Probably a good move on his part to not push it and end up spinning out, but unfortunate for him. That's going to put Doherty up into fourth place. Or excuse me, that's going to put Doherty up into third place because we know Snow is pitting. So right here, Marchission's going to take the lead while Snow is in the pits, followed by Albert in second, Doherty in third, and David Macedo in fourth. So now the question is, when will these guys pit? We know John has got quite an advantage. You see John coming out of the pits here. Let's see what the next split is. So we know he's on older tires, but he's been really fast all race long on these tires, so it's not like his pace has dropped off. Right now it is showing him behind Pedro by 5 seconds. You see Pedro up ahead there. Pedro currently running in 5th place. This is the highest position he's ever run in our league. He's got to be excited right now. Hopefully he can just keep it between the lines and get a good finish out of this race. But we know John's going to take it back at some point whenever he pits. So back up to the front with Marchission. Everybody's spread out a little bit here. See Marchission get a little loose there. Almost has an incident on the curbing there. Able to hold on to it. You got to put down some really good laps whenever you're running on older tires like this and somebody else is already pitted trying to undercut. You have to put together some really good consistent laps to maintain your position. You see Doherty back there in 3rd place. David Macedo is about 3.6 seconds behind Doherty. Okay, so John Snow is up into 5th right now. He managed to get by Pedro. Or Pedro was in the pits, that's why. Okay, so Pedro has pitted. He comes out in 6th place. So John, even though he's already pitted, is only 16.8 seconds behind David Macedo. So it just shows what a huge lead he had when he did hit the pit. The fact that he's only that far behind 4th place and these guys haven't pitted yet. So we see Marchician here coming down through the corkscrew. We'll see if any of these guys pit on this lap. This is the 21st lap of the race, rapidly approaching the halfway point in the race, and Marchician is not going to pit on this lap. Neither is Albert, neither is Doherty. So those three guys have all stayed out on the track. Let's check on David. David did not pit either. So the top four still running on their original tires. Not sure what the strategy is going to be for these guys. Marchician is losing time to Albert. He's not been as fast since he took the lead. Been a little bit inconsistent, had a couple of almost big mistakes, and he's losing a little bit of time to Jesse right now. He's got to just settle back in and try to put down some good laps before he pits. Jesse's got it down to a 1.1 second lead for Marchician, and Marchician dives into the pits at the last second, and I don't know if he got slowed down enough coming into the pit entrance right there. That looked risky. Let's take another look at that. Take a look at the onboard. Comes down into the turn here, acts like he's going to go down to the front stretch, and then at the last second, yeah, you can see he was well over the pit speed limit there. That's going to be a penalty, and that's going to cost him dearly going into the second half of this race. We're now 22 laps in the books. Jesse Albert is going to take the lead. That's going to move everybody up. Mike Doherty now in second. Andre Marchician is currently shown in third, but he's about to drop back to at least fourth or fifth. Let's see if John Snow, yeah, John Snow is passing him also. So John's going to move up into fourth. So our new leader is Jesse Albert with 22 laps in the books. He is still out on his original tires. Behind him is Mike Doherty, who is in the same situation, followed by David Macedo. All three of these guys still haven't pitted yet. And you see John Snow is only 15.4 seconds off of third place. So when these guys finally do pit, he's going to take the lead back. John has dominated this race. I know it can be confusing when he's not currently in the lead, but he is currently in the lead because these guys are all going to have to pit, and it's going to put him right back where he belongs because he has been faster than everybody so far in this race. There you see the penalty on the scoreboard there. 30-second stop and go penalty for Andre. Really unfortunate for him. Trying to play a little game with Albert there to see if he could fake him out and then dive into the pits, but just too much speed carried into pit lane, and that unfortunately is going to really mess up his race. It's a shame to see that for Andre. He had ran such a really great race, and the battle between him and Jesse had been really fun to watch. So we see David here. He's 6 seconds off of Doherty, and John Snow is, see if the split will pop up here to tell us how far he is off of Macedo. We've still got 20 laps to go. He's 15 seconds off of Macedo. So let's get back to the front and see if Jesse's going to pit this lap or not. Coming down here He is not going to pit, so he's going to stay out at least one more lap. Mike Doherty is going to pit. Doherty coming in. We know that Doherty a lot of times will take a risk in the pits, kind of throw the Hail Mary by not taking tires. Let's see if he does that again. And you see David Macedo behind him, so these guys are both in the pits. If Doherty doesn't take tires, that might give him enough, depending on what Jesse does. So he didn't take tires. So now it's all going to depend on what Jesse does to who ends up in second place. Because Jon Snow, we just saw him cruise by Doherty. So he's up into second. Jesse running in first all by himself right now, but he still has to pit. So John is going to inherit this lead. It's just a matter of time. So coming down the hill there, let's see if he pits this lap or not. And he is going to pit. Okay, so he's coming down into pit lane now. He's ran a really good race so far, but now it's going to be a matter of, does he take tires or not? Because if he doesn't take tires, he's going to stay in front of Doherty. If he does take tires, it's going to be close, but I think he's going to lose the position to Mike Doherty for second place. As you see Snow coming down here to take the lead back. Let's see what his lap time was this last lap. Remember, he's on old tires. His last lap was a 1:24.2, so he is still really on good pace, even though he's on old tires. Mike Doherty is going to come through, and he is going to take second place. Albert is taking tires. That's going to give Doherty second, and it's going to give him second by quite a large margin. Let's see about David Macedo here. David, is he going to end up in front of Jesse? Jesse's coming out of the pits. David's coming down the front stretch. It looks like Albert's going to be able to hang on to third. Oh, Albert off the track there, coming off of pit lane. But he's going to hang on to third place. And you see David behind him. So Doherty taking the gamble once again on older tires. The only question is, can Jesse do anything with Mike Doherty on fresh tires? He's got about 18 laps to go. How much pace will he really be able to make up is the question. And meanwhile, up here in the front, Jon Snow is just, he's dominated from beginning to end. He's never lost the lead. He started in first, and he maintains first place by a large margin. It would take a pretty big mistake on his part to lose the lead at this point. You see Pedro up ahead of him right now. Pedro has moved up into 5th place because of that penalty that Andre suffered in pit lane. So Pedro running in 5th place. His fastest lap was a 1:24.1, which was his last lap. So his last lap that he just put in was his fastest lap of the race. He's having a great race. He's never finished nearly this high in an official race, or in any race that we've ran. Pedro, he's kind of everybody's favorite driver. We love to root for the guy. We want to see him continue to grow as a driver, and this is a huge step in that direction. If he can pull this off and finish in the top 5, this would be a huge success story for him. trying to look and see what the split is from Doherty to Albert. Oh wow, it's 23.9 seconds. So yeah, there's little chance of Jesse being able to make up that gap. 23.9 seconds. Even with Doherty being on older tires, that's going to be probably too much for him to overcome. So you see Albert here dealing with a little bit of lap traffic coming up on Joe Marsiglia. Everybody's pretty spaced out right now. The closest battle is this one here between Jesse Albert and David Macedo, which is, let's see if the split will pop up and tell us how big of a gap this is. It is 7 seconds. So from third to fourth is a 7-second gap, and that is the closest gap we have on the track right now. So everybody's pretty spaced out after all the pit stops and the pit penalties and the different things that have gone on throughout the race. So see what these guys can do the rest of the race. There is going to be some lap traffic situations. We want to see these situations get handled cleanly. We talk about it a lot in our drivers' meetings. We talk about it a lot during our practice sessions. You know, if you're the slower car, you see the blue flag there. Marsiglia is getting the blue flag to let Albert go, which it's not time to let him go yet. He hasn't caught him yet, but once he catches him, you know, it's on the slower driver to let him safely pass, either on a front stretch or something like that. You know, let the guy go without any challenge, because you're not racing for position. There's no position battle going on. You see Albert coming down the inside here, and Joe's just going to let him go. Good job by Marsiglia to let him pass cleanly. We see John, I think he's coming up on some lap traffic also out here in the lead. Maybe not. Oh, he's still got Pedro out in front of him, but Pedro is still pretty good gap in front of him. So it's going to be a while if he catches him. Doherty, 12.9 seconds off of Jon Snow, so he's not making up any time on Snow. Both of these guys are on older tires, so neither driver has an advantage really, and John has been faster the entire race, so you don't really expect Doherty to catch him, but you know, all it takes is one mistake and Doherty's right back in it for the lead. Let's take a look here. Let's see here. Kind of running out of battles to follow right now. You see John is getting closer to Pedro. Pedro is still running a really nice race, but this just shows how dominant John has been. He is about to lap 5th place. So this is the level of dominance he's had throughout this race. This is by far the most dominant race we've seen from anybody in our championship season so far. So John really made this track his own, and he's been really, really good. He's up in the top of the points right now in our championship. There's Pedro letting him go. So good move by Pedro there just to let John get on past. John is up in, I believe, 2nd or 3rd place in points right now in the championship. He's in the top anyway, and this is no doubt going to help him a lot if he can pull through the last 13 laps right here. and win this race, it's going to bring him up quite a bit. Doherty is leading our championship right now, and he is currently running in second, so he's going to score good points on this race also. So he's going to maintain his lead no matter what happens here. But really good race by both of these guys. Jesse Albert, he's made up some positions just by consistency alone, and of course his speed too. You see there, his fastest lap was a 1:23.1, so he was really fast at certain points in this race. And unfortunate what happened to Marcheshin, because the battle between him and Marcheshin probably would have raged on throughout the course of this race. Andre just got a little overly excited. I think maybe didn't realize how quick the speed limiter was supposed to be engaged going into the pits, and ended up making a mistake there, diving in at the last second. But we've seen a lot of speed from Andre. We've seen him finish really well in this season so far, and we expect him to be right back up in the front again next week. Just an unfortunate turn of events today. And David has got to be happy with where he's at right now. He's running in fourth. He's behind 3 really fast drivers, so you can't feel bad about that. Those guys are all really quick that are in front of him. You see him run wide there. Of course, as soon as I start saying nice things about him, he makes a mistake. But he was really struggling throughout the week on this track. So the fact that he kind of figured it out right before the beginning of the official race really is pretty impressive, and it's going to give him good points towards the championship also. So back up to the front, John, we're now looking at, he's on the 33rd lap out of 43, so almost 10 laps to go. Let's take a look at how he's doing on these older tires. We know John Snow and Mike Doherty both stayed out on their original tires to save time on their pit stop. It definitely worked out for both of them. John didn't have to do that because he was so far in the lead, he was going to get the lead back anyway, even if he took tires. But he really doesn't seem to be struggling with the car at all, at least from what we've seen here. You see him going down into second through that turn, but I'm not sure if he was doing that before or not. Let's see what his lap is coming through here. 33 laps in the books, and he runs a 1:24.7. So by no means his fastest lap of the race, but still a fast lap. And he's got such a big lead right now that he would really have to start making some big mistakes to lose this race. He is really dominated from beginning to end. And you see he's not fighting with the car. The tires are not really a problem for him at all. Nice and steady. Let's take a look on board with Doherty. Doherty also running on old tires, 33 laps on his tires. See him getting a little loose there. Doherty is a little more of a counter steer kind of guy. When you watch him, you see Pedro off the track there. But you watch Doherty race and you see him doing counter steer inputs more maybe than the average driver. Very quick to save the rear end of the car. We definitely see him fighting with the tires a little bit more than John is right now. That could be tire temps, it could be tire pressure settings, it could just be setup. See him struggling through that turn there, so he's definitely not making up pace on Jon Snow, but he's 19.6 seconds ahead of Jesse Albert, so he's got a comfortable cushion. All he's got to do is just nice and steady maintain for the rest of this race, and he's going to pull out second. Let's take a look at the difference of what fresh tires look like. Here's Jesse coming down into the first turn. Yeah, he's definitely more comfortable than Mike Doherty is, that's for sure, on these newer tires. But the strategy appears to have paid off for Mike Doherty, though, because he's got a pretty huge gap between him and Jesse for second place. So see Albert there, nice and steady through these turns. Jesse was a little bit of an unknown for us for the beginning of the season, because he wasn't with us at the beginning, but he's a very consistent driver and shows a ton of speed at every track we've been to so far. So he's definitely a threat in every race to win. Didn't quite have the pace here that John had, but I don't think anybody had the pace here that John has. I mean, John really has been kind of on a different level in this race. So we see him out here in front. His last lap was a 1:24.6. Let's see what he ran this lap. See Kyle Macedo back there behind him. $1:24.8. So he's not exactly putting on blazing laps right now, but Doherty ran a 1:24.8 also. So Doherty, or excuse me, a 1:24.9. So Doherty's not making ground, he's actually losing a little bit of ground. And let's see what Jesse does this lap. His last lap was a 1:25.4, so that was not very fast, but let's see what this one is here. 1:26.5, so he's not making up time on either of these guys either. So, and then David Macedo, let's see what his last lap was. $1:24.8, so he's on about the pace that the leaders are on. So he's faster than Jesse has been for the last couple of laps, but he's currently, let's see what the split is. I think he's still got quite a big gap to catch Jesse, though. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. We've got about 7 laps left in the race. Back up to the front, John ran a 1:24.1 his last lap, so he actually has gotten faster. He's still putting in some really fast laps, even on these very old tires. 37 laps on his tires, working on 38, and still putting down some great lap times. Yeah, David is still 12.5 seconds behind Jesse Albert, so unless Jesse makes a really big mistake, he's not going to catch Jesse either. So not a lot of drama here in the second half of the race. There was plenty in the first half of the race. A lot of tight battles between fast drivers. Really intense for everybody to watch. Let's take a look on board with Doherty. See how he's doing. Last lap was a 125.0. So he's definitely losing some pace on these older tires. We know Mike is definitely consistent enough to bring it home on old tires. He's done it before. He's doing a good job of just holding it together. Let's take a look on board with Albert. His last lap was a 127.4, so he is struggling for pace right now. I don't think it's because of tires. I don't know why his pace is not what it was earlier. Maybe just making some mistakes. Really a good race by all these guys. As we take a look at John, who is approaching the end of the race here with a dominant win. He would really have to make a mistake to lose it now. He's got a large lead. He's still running good laps on old tires. Really consistent throughout this race and consistently dominant, which is something we haven't really seen much of in our league. Usually the gaps aren't this big, but John is he's up to 17 seconds lead right now. He's really dominated this race, and that's 17 seconds over the championship leader, Doherty, who is one of our fastest, most consistent drivers. So that just shows how good of a race John has really had. He was never under pressure from anybody after about the second lap. He had some pressure for those first 2 laps or so from David Macedo, but I think Macedo made a small mistake and John got a little bit of a gap on the second or third lap, and once he got a little bit of a gap, he just never looked back. And you see his last lap time there, 124.1, so he's still, with 40 laps on his tires, he's still putting down fast laps. He has really got this car dialed in for this track, and it's a great feeling when your setup is that good, you're that comfortable with the track, and you're able to just keep it clean and keep it on the track for an entire race. Being able to dominate like this it's a great feeling. He's got to be really happy about his performance, and now he's just trying to keep those negative thoughts out of his head, what could happen, and just keep turning good laps. You know, he's got about 3 laps to go. So 3 laps to get it done. Almost 18 seconds from him to Doherty. You see Doherty catching up to Kyle Macedo here, coming up the hill. We've got David Macedo, who has caught up to Andre. We'll see if he tries to... I mean, he has no reason to push it right now, but he may still, just from pace alone, catch Andre. I don't know if Andre... Oh, you see David get on the sausage curb there and run really wide. Manages to keep it out of the wall, but that's gonna let Andre get away. So that's pretty much the end of that. Doherty here, he's got a big lead on Jesse Albert. He's gonna have to deal with Kyle Macedo probably right towards the end of this race. He may choose not to. He may just choose to let Kyle stay in front of him because he's not under threat at all from Jesse right now. Just needs to focus on finishing the race cleanly. That's his #1 goal right now. Coming up the hill here. You see the blue flag waving there. Oh my gosh, Kyle gets off the track all over the sausage curb. Doherty manages to stay out of him, stay off the wall, but that was close to a disaster right at the end of the race there. Let's take a look from the onboard what that looked like for Mike Doherty. You see Kyle's a little ways ahead of him here coming down through the corkscrew, so he's not, really worried about Kyle. Kyle coming down the hill just gets inside, gets loose, hits the curb and goes airborne. That's the second time in 2 races we've seen Kyle airborne. Last Friday night at Zolder, he, I think, set an all-time record for hang time off of one of the chicane curves. So here he is again going airborne at Laguna Seca. Luckily, nothing happened to Doherty there, and he's able to pull through it. Meanwhile, John Snow, he is coming down the home stretch. He's on the final lap of the race, just trying to finish this thing, get it done. Great race by him. Fantastic job by all these guys who are finishing up here in the top 5. Once again, Pedro's running in 5th. It looks like he's going to finish in 5th. Great job by him. Best finish he's ever had. And we'll go down through the running order here as these guys cross the line. You see John coming through. Last couple of turns here. Nice and steady through there. Just trying to bring it home. And there's the checkered flag for John Snow. Big congratulations to him on a dominant win. Mike Doherty in 2nd. His pit strategy of not taking tires pays off once again. He's gained positions doing that every time he's ever done it. So it's really worked out for him. Able to hold on to it and get 2nd on those older tires. And then we've got Jesse Albert here, who's going to finish 3rd after the start of the race. I can't remember what position Jesse started in, but I want to say it was like 5th or maybe 6th. He really had a good race to finish 3rd. Great job by him. David Macedo, he's going to finish 4th. He's got to be really happy about that, considering he wasn't looking like he was going to have a very good race right up until the day of the race. Did a great job keeping it all together. And that is going to be the end of our race. So, like we always do, let's go back to the beginning of the race. We are going to ride, I think we're going to ride on board with somebody. The question is, who do we want to ride with? I think we'll do it from Albert's perspective. Jesse starting in 6th place. We're going to see how the race unfolded for him in this first lap or so. We always say a great race starts with a great first lap, and that's the hardest part of the race. So you see these guys getting the green flag here. Jesse gets a good jump on Doherty, getting right up on his rear end. Everybody's going to be really tight coming through this first turn here, too wide all the way down to 6th place. Everybody manages to keep it clean. You see Macedo come in behind Jon Snow. You see Albert here side by side with Marchician. What a battle these guys would have for the first 20-something laps of this race. Falls in behind Marchician. And you just see how tense it is for these guys at the beginning of these races. Just how good of a job they've really done every race of the season, keeping it under control, keeping it clean. So I want to thank everybody for coming and watching this week, watching our 4th race. We're halfway through the championship season. Next week we'll talk about standings, who's where in the points before the race. And there's where you see where Joe got off the track and got into Marchician. Unfortunate start for him. But we'll get into to next week. We'll get into the points a little bit, who's where in the standings, and you know who needs what to make up some ground in the points. And as always, thank you for watching. And I'll have the Discord link in the description of the video so that you guys can join us on Discord if you'd like. Be a part of the league. Come and race with us. We'd love to have you with us. We got a great group of clean racers here, and we're always looking for more. So thanks again for watching, and have a great week.